Hello again. Welcome back to another Fresh from the Theater review. I just got back from seeing In a Violent Nature. I didn't know a ton going into this film other than the fact that it was a slasher film and that it was, unlike a lot of others, done apparently from the point of view of the killer. So that made me interested, and been a bit busy lately, so I haven't had a chance to go to the cinema, but this week I decided I really wanted to see Bad Boys Ride or Die, which that review went up a few days ago, and In a Violent Nature was still playing at the cinema, so I figured might as well get to it before they take it out, because everything comes and goes, and from what I saw it was more of a small, independent type of film, so I thought it'd be cool because those rarely come to my cinema. And now that I've seen it, I can say I am very glad I saw it. It was definitely, like, the best way to describe this movie is it defies expectations. Like, there are a lot of horror cliches that we've become used to, especially with slashers, and this film just kind of takes those cliches and flips them around. Like, there are some routes you think it's going to go, but it also goes in a very different direction most of the time. And yeah, it for the most part takes place entirely from the point of view or around the film's killer, who is basically more or less Jason Voorhees' clone, but a well-done Jason Voorhees clone named Johnny. And he's got the Kane Hodder build, and it's kind of fitting that I went to cinema today wearing my blue flannel, because it's not that far off from what the character's outfit looks like. And we see him at the beginning. The thing that they have to set this whole goddamn story off is we hear the voices of some kids who are vacationing in the woods, as is typical, and they see this necklace hanging on a piece of wood, and one of them just decides to take it with them. That awakens the killer, who was buried right underneath the shack that the necklace was at, and it's unclear exactly if he was just laying there a lot. Like, there's a tube above him that falls off, and then he literally comes up out of the ground, and it's unclear if it's like a breathing tube, or maybe it's, as we learn later, maybe that was used to impale him down there. But the necklace, which we eventually find out is his mother's, having it taken away awakens him, and he goes on a very slow journey to get it back. And it's the best words I can describe this movie is it's almost like it's definitely an experimental movie, and I wouldn't exactly call it art house, but it's definitely a more artsy type of slasher film. And aside from the fact that it's from the point of view of the killer, the only other thing I really knew about this movie was that there is no music scoring in it. And I listened, and yeah, there is no music score. The closest thing we have to music are a couple of songs that play on some people's music players or radios. Other than that, it's very, very quiet. We get the snapping of twigs. Like, if you thought A Quiet Place was a masterpiece of sound-centric horror, then this film just stomps all over A Quiet Place. And the killer, Johnny, walks about going from place to place till he finds this group of kids that are vacationing in this cabin. One by one, he takes them out, as you expect, and the kills in this film, like, I remember Stephen King put out a tweet promoting this movie. He really enjoyed it, said it was very bloody, and that's not necessarily a guarantee it's going to be good, because Stephen King has given props to a lot of dumb shit, but this was definitely a well-worthy film to praise, to check out, because the kills in this film are goddamn fucking brutal. Like, they're not just brutal, these are honestly, in my opinion, some of the best gore effects I've ever seen. You will have your mind blown just what they were able to accomplish here. Like, some of the best kills. Let's see, there's a bit where a guy gets the upper half of his head cut off, and right away you're like, oh, like that's the reaction you'll be having throughout the film. You'll just be going, oh, or you'll laugh just in the awesomeness of how well it was pulled off, and also just how stupid some of these characters were. It's one of those cases where, like, the kids who get killed off, there's not much character to them, but that's not really a problem here, because with this type of story, the way it's laid out and the fact that we're following this voiceless killer throughout the film, it wouldn't make sense to give them development, or it wouldn't really be plausible. But the kills are amazing, and there's a bit where this kid is killed with a hook, and I won't describe it because I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but it is just gnarly and creative, and I don't think I've really seen something like it before. Maybe if I dug into some of the films of Lloyd Kaufman, maybe, but it pulls it off without coming off too silly. The most impressive kill of the whole film is where this guy gets his head crushed by a rock. And that may sound simple, but when you see him moving, talking, and you actually see it happen in the same shot, and it's just amazingly put together. And last one I'll say before I hold things off to the spoiler section is the most creative death is definitely this one involving a log splitter. You just wait there waiting for it to happen, and when it does, oh boy, it lives up exactly to what you're probably hoping, maybe even more than what you're hoping in your mind. And that's another thing. The suspense of this film is incredible. Just it's extremely well done. And not every death is gory or violent. We get some off-screen deaths or ones that are not completely in frame. And probably the most impressive non-gory death is where this person is killed in the lake. The buildup is perfect, and the suspense is truly where the film shines the most. If there's any other pros to give, it's again, going against the cliche where, like, in most slasher films, you have a masked killer, and this killer has a pretty good mask. It's like a antique fireman's helmet, and it looks pretty scary, but we do see his face, and unlike most where you have to see it at the end, we see this killer's face in the middle of the film, and it's a pretty grotesque face. And as always, I try to be fair. I list my cons, and this is nothing to do with the movie, just the fact that this is a very quiet film. The suspense is rooted in just how silent this movie is. And while it was effective and it worked pretty well for me, it was a little hard to fully get sucked into the silence and sound editing when the movie playing in the theater next to me was Furiosa, which is a great film, but it's a little hard when you keep hearing the sound of cars revving. And with a movie that doesn't have a music score, you probably wonder just how interesting they can keep it going, and they kept it going extremely well. The only parts that really dragged for me was after the first major bloody kill, when Johnny goes to this ranger station to get what will be his mask. And the scene felt like it went on a little long, and The final scene, like, overall the movie is just well done, but the final 15 minutes, which I'll get to in a minute, really drag out. Like, it dragged out in a way that didn't do it any favors. The kids in this film are, as I said, they're not the most developed, but they do get some pretty scummy moments, which makes it easy not to really care what happens to them. And even the one character who's not the most shitty, you're kind of indifferent to what happens to her. But there are one or two moments where the annoyance can get a little much. Like, there's one part where they're around the campfire, which is kind of the exposition dump, and it is a well-done exposition scene, but there's one joke, like, because the character is basically, like Jason, fucking retarded, like a rotted potato head, and the guy telling the campfire story about the legend of this killer tries to describe him as slow, without saying anything that would offend anybody, and they make a cancel culture joke, which isn't the worst, but when people drop phrases like that, I know it's a modern 2024 movie, but it just took me out of it a little bit. And that's about it for the cons, the pros that are non-spoiler heavy. So if you have a chance to check out In a Violent Nature, then I say go for it. It will go against everything you're used to. Like, if you love slashers, I think you'll get into this. The ending might be hit or miss, so yeah, go check it out, and without further ado, let's talk about the ending. Now, without beating around the bush, the thing I really loved was, you think this ending's like gonna go the route of the characters trying to trap the killer, and at first I was like, oh no, don't be that stupid. And then we get a honestly hilarious moment where this boy, trying to be the big bad hero, gets his fucking head caved in, and it goes on a while. You're sitting there kind of shocked how a while it's going on, and it's bloody, it's gruesome. You see brain matter just going everywhere. And then the main girl, Chris, she does probably the smartest thing she could do, because at this point they know the legend, and the movie implies that there might be some supernatural shit going on, but they never delve into it too much. Like, we never see any like special effects, but it was established earlier that the necklace, his mother's necklace, was the only thing that would keep Johnny the killer at rest. So, deciding it's not worth losing her life, she takes the necklace, which was given to her by the boy who stole it earlier, lays it down, and then goes away. And this is where the movie might lose a few people. Up to this point, the whole film has been from the point of view or around the Johnny character. Even the campfire scene, because he was in the background. And at the end, the last 15 minutes are entirely from the Chris character's point of view. And at first, we just see her running, trying to get the fuck out of the forest. It's unclear if she's going in circles or if she's having a mental breakdown, but this sequence was extremely well shot. The actress did a great job, and you really feel her losing her mind over this, and the whole scene plays out to the next morning where she's on a dirt road and manages to flag down some older lady in a truck. And I didn't know this till I got home and did a quick read-up of the film. The woman in the truck is played by Lauren Marie Taylor, who, for those who don't know, was in one of the Friday the 13th films. films. She was Vicky, the brown panties chick who wanted to fuck the guy in the wheelchair in Friday the 13th Part 2. And while it's kind of cool that they got a member of the Friday the 13th family to be in this film, I'm not exactly sure I liked what they did with her, because this whole ending scene goes on for 10 minutes maybe, and it's just this older woman talking to the girl. And I'm not saying Lauren Taylor did a bad job, but this scene goes on for quite a while. Part of me was thinking, this better be building up to one more confrontation with the killer, but it didn't. And maybe that's, again, going against the horror cliches, but the way the film ended, like, there is no final appearance. Like, it's suspenseful, but we don't see a final appearance by Johnny. We see the area where Chris left the necklace, and it's gone. And that's where it ends. I feel like the film lacked proper closure, and even though it would have gone along with some of the horror cliches that they try to avoid, I don't think I would have been against one last kill. And not saying the Chris character would have to die, but I feel like there should have been some bloody final scene at the end. Other than that, the whole film was very solid, and I'm glad I saw it, I'm glad I went. And if you, if you like slasher films and want to have one that goes against the norm, then I say give it a fucking watch. And this was quite a week for going to the movies. Bad Boys and slasher film. And that's about it. I give this film on the 5-star scale a pretty reasonable 4. I almost want to give it a 3.5, but I think 4 is pretty good, because until those last 15 minutes, the film stayed consistently on point, and its originality just stands out above most. And that's all I really have to say. Hope you enjoyed this vlog, and as always, I will see you again hopefully soon.